I want to start today with a question that may sting a little. How many mornings have you woken up and thought, I'll do it tomorrow, only to realize you've been saying that for years? I've been there. Years ago, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror and saw a stranger staring back at me, someone who had been busy but not productive. Someone who had dreams but no deadlines. It hit me that I was wasting my life, and let me tell you, that realization, it wasn't gentle. It was like a punch to the gut. It felt like I had been sleepwalking through my days, convincing myself that the small tasks, the endless emails, the meetings that could have been avoided, the scrolling through social media just for a minute were all necessary. But deep down, I knew the truth. I knew that I had traded my time, my energy, and my focus for distractions that left me feeling empty. I knew that I was mistaking movement for progress and busyness for purpose, and that scared me. I stood there, staring at myself, and I started asking the hard questions, the ones we usually avoid, because the answers make us uncomfortable. What am I doing with my life? What do I really want? Why do I feel like I'm always running but never arriving? That was my moment, my wake-up call. But here's the thing, wake-up calls aren't always loud. Sometimes they're quiet. Sometimes they come in the form of a restless night when you can't stop thinking about the things you haven't done yet. Sometimes they're a conversation that leaves you wondering why you're working so hard for something that doesn't even light you up. And sometimes they're a whisper, the kind that nudges you when no one's watching and asks, is this really it? If you've ever felt that whisper, or maybe even a scream, I want you to know this. It's not there to shame you. It's not there to remind you of what you haven't done or how far you still have to go. It's there to wake you up. It's there to remind you that your time is finite. In your life, this one wild, precious life isn't something to spend on autopilot. The question isn't whether you've wasted time in the past. We all have. The real question is, what are you going to do with the time you have left? Because here's what I've learned: the people who achieve extraordinary things, the ones who seem to defy odds and accomplish more in a year than most do in a lifetime, they don't wait for the perfect moment. They don't waste time feeling sorry for themselves or blaming their circumstances. They make a decision. They decide that today, not tomorrow, not next week, not when they feel more ready, is the day they'll stop wasting their lives. And let me tell you, when I finally made that decision, everything changed. I started waking up with a sense of clarity I hadn't felt in years, not because my circumstances suddenly shifted, but because my mindset did. I stopped hitting snooze. I stopped numbing out with distractions. And I started showing up not just for my work, but for my life. And that's what I want for you. Today, I'm inviting you to wake up, to stop living on autopilot, to recognize that the clock is ticking, not in a way that should scare you, but in a way that should inspire you. Because you're not here to play small. You're not here to drift through your days and wonder where the time went. You're here to create, to build, to grow, and to make an impact. But that only happens when you decide right here, right now, that your life is worth more than wasted minutes and missed opportunities. That moment in my bathroom, it wasn't the end. It was the beginning. And today can be yours. What separates the top 1% of high achievers from the rest of us isn't necessarily their resources or their luck. It's not even the talent they were born with. No, it's something deeper. It's a mindset, a way of thinking that drives them to show up differently, work smarter, and make the most of their time. I used to think success was about having all the right answers, the perfect strategy, or the ideal circumstances. But the more I studied the habits of the top 1%, the more I realized that their true power lies in how they manage their minds, their time, and their energy. They have this ability to filter out the noise and focus on what truly matters. It's not about doing everything. It's about doing the right things and doing them with purpose. And here's the kicker: they don't wait for motivation to strike. They create it. They build it. They know that motivation is a fleeting spark, but discipline is what gets them to the finish line time after time. I remember hearing a top performer once say, motivation is a shower, you need it every day. But what really hit home for me was when they followed that up with discipline, however, is what makes you take the first step, even when you don't feel like it. And that's the secret. The 1% doesn't wait for the perfect day or the perfect feeling. They've learned how to build system structures around their days, their priorities, and their actions that force them to show up, whether they feel like it or not. The person who gets up early every day isn't doing it because it feels good. They're doing it because it's a non-negotiable. The person who works on their project, even when they're tired, isn't doing it because they're excited. They're doing it because they've decided to keep going. I used to get caught in the trap of thinking that motivation had to come before the action. But when I shifted that belief, everything changed. I learned that the act of showing up, even when you don't feel like it, is where the magic happens. It's in those moments of discomfort that growth takes root. But the mindset of the top 1% goes even further. They don't just push through discomfort, they embrace it. They understand that true success doesn't come from avoiding the hard work, but from leaning into it. They've learned that it's in the struggle, in the grind, where the real transformation happens. This isn't about working harder. It's about working smarter. It's about using your energy and your time as efficiently as possible. It's about eliminating distractions, saying no to the things that don't serve you, and carving out time for the things that will move the needle in your life. The 1% doesn't get bogged down by the small stuff. They don't waste time on things that don't contribute to their big picture. I'll be honest, there are days when I still get distracted, when I still waste time scrolling through my phone or putting off a difficult task. But when I think about the lives of the people I admire most, I realize how little time they waste on anything that doesn't align with their goals. They're not distracted by shiny objects or fleeting trends. They keep their focus fixed on their vision and work relentlessly towards it, even when things get tough. They know that success doesn't happen in bursts of effort. It happens over time through consistent, intentional action. And here's the kicker. This mindset isn't just about work. It's about life. It's about how you show up in your relationships, in your health, in your personal growth. The 1% doesn't separate their work from their life, they integrate it. They know that their mental and physical well-being is foundational to everything they do. They understand that without energy and balance, all the productivity hacks in the world won't make a difference. So if you're wondering what the top 1% have that you don't some magical gene or a secret formula, it's their mindset. It's their ability to stay focused, to embrace discomfort, to keep going when others quit, and to show up with consistency day after day. They don't wait for the perfect conditions. They create them. They don't wait for motivation. They cultivate it. And once you understand this, once you adopt this mindset, you'll stop seeing obstacles as roadblocks and you'll start seeing them as opportunities for growth. And that's when everything begins to change. D. You know what the most dangerous word in the English language is. Later. We all use it. We say, I'll get to that later, or I'll start tomorrow. It's the excuse that keeps us stuck in a cycle of procrastination, convincing ourselves that we have all the time in the world. But here's the truth, later is a lie. Later becomes never. We all have dreams, goals, and aspirations that are waiting for us on the other side of this lie. But what happens when we keep putting them off? We build a life full of almosts. Almost there, almost ready, almost successful, but never actually fully stepping into what we know we're capable of. I've been there. I've told myself that I'll take that course, I'll write that book, I'll get healthier tomorrow. And you know what happens when we say later? Nothing. The perfect time never comes. The stars never align, and we wake up one day years later asking ourselves what happened. Why am I still stuck? Here's the thing I've come to understand. The top 1% of achievers know that perfection is a trap. They know that waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect set of circumstances only delays progress. The best of the best don't wait for everything to be just right. They start where they are, with what they have. They build momentum as they go, and that's what separates them from the rest of us. Perfectionism is paralyzing. It tells us that if we can't do something perfectly, we might as well not do it at all. It convinces us that our work isn't good enough unless it's flawless. But in truth, done is better than perfect. Perfectionism isn't a sign of excellence, it's a sign of fear. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. And I'll tell you right now, fear is the enemy of progress. The top 1% embrace imperfection because they understand something crucial. Every step forward is a step closer to their goals, and they'd rather take messy action than sit and wait for everything to fall into place. They know that you can't build anything of value without taking risks, making mistakes, and learning along the way. They don't wait until they feel ready. They simply decide to start. I remember when I started a new project years ago. I spent months planning and preparing, trying to make everything perfect before I launched. And then one day, someone reminded me, the best time to start is always now. It was a slap in the face and a wake-up call. I realized I had spent so much time trying to get things perfect that I had delayed my own progress. When I finally launched, it wasn't perfect, but it was done. And that's where the real magic happened. Because once you start, once you put something out into the world, even if it's messy, it creates momentum. Momentum is a powerful force. It's what propels you forward, even on the days when you doubt yourself or when things aren't going as planned. The simple act of starting is what sets you apart from the people who remain stuck in a cycle of waiting. The top 1% get this. They don't wait until the stars align. They don't wait for the perfect conditions. They take action right now, and they allow their mistakes and imperfections to teach them, to guide them, to refine them. Think about your own life for a moment. How many things have you postponed? Convinced that you'll start once everything feels right. How many dreams have you pushed aside because the timing wasn't perfect? It's time to stop waiting. The world doesn't need your perfection, it needs your progress. So here's what I want to challenge you to do. What is one thing you've been putting off, thinking it has to be perfect before you begin? I want you to do it not perfectly, but done. Start, take one step. And don't wait for the ideal conditions to show up, because they won't. You have everything you need right now to take that first step. Done is always better than perfect. And in that done, you will find your growth, your learning, and your path to success. Have you ever said yes to something you didn't want to do just to avoid disappointing someone? Or maybe you said yes because you felt guilty or obligated, even though your gut told you it wasn't right for you. I have. And it used to weigh on me like an anchor, holding me back from focusing on what truly mattered. The truth is, most of us are people pleasers in some form. We want to be liked. We want to be accepted. We want to feel that we're making others happy. But here's the thing, saying yes to everyone else means you're saying no to yourself. And that, my friends, is where the problem lies. I used to think that being helpful and accommodating was a virtue. After all, who doesn't want to be known as the person who's always there for everyone? But over time, I realized that saying yes to every request, every favor, and every invitation wasn't just draining my energy, it was draining my time and my focus. I was losing sight of my own priorities, my own dreams, because I was too busy managing everyone else's. This is something the top 1% knows all too well. They've learned how to draw boundaries and guard their time fiercely. They don't say yes to everything, and they don't apologize for it. They understand that every time they say yes to something that doesn't align with their goals or values, they're saying no to something more important, like their health, their relationships, or their personal growth. There's power in saying no. And no, it doesn't mean you're a bad person or that you're being selfish. In fact, it's the opposite. It means you respect your own time and energy enough to prioritize the things that truly matter. I remember a time when I felt overwhelmed with requests from friends, family, and colleagues. I was stretched so thin trying to please everyone that I couldn't even focus on my own goals. One evening I was asked to attend an event I had zero interest in. I knew I should have said no, but I felt guilty. I didn't want to disappoint anyone. I didn't want to seem rude. But in that moment, I realized that my constant yes was costing me more than I could afford. So I did something radical. I said no. And you know what happened? The world didn't end. People didn't stop liking me. In fact, it was empowering. I learned that I could still be a good person without saying yes to every request. And by saying no, I created space for the things that were truly important, things that aligned with my values and my long-term vision. The top 1% doesn't say yes because it's easy. They say no because they understand that time and energy are their most valuable resources. They protect their time fiercely, knowing that saying yes to the right things is what propels them forward, while saying yes to everything else only dilutes their focus. It's not about being rude or shutting people out. It's about making deliberate choices. It's about recognizing that your time, your mental space, and your emotional energy are worth more than temporary approval or acceptance. It's about knowing that every yes you give means you're making a trade, and you have to make sure that trade is worth it. What if you said no to the things that drained you and said yes to the things that lit you up? What would your life look like if you didn't spend so much time trying to meet other people's expectations and instead focused on meeting your own? The next time you're asked to do something, take a moment, check in with yourself. Is this in alignment with my goals? Is this in alignment with my values? If it isn't, practice saying no. You'll be amazed at how much more room you'll create in your life for the things that truly matter. Saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you smart. It makes you intentional. It makes you someone who knows how to protect their time and energy so that you can give your best self to the people and things that matter most. So today I challenge you, the next time you're faced with a request or an invitation, ask yourself, does this align with my vision for my life? And if it doesn't, let go of the guilt. Let go of the fear. Say no and watch how your life begins to shift. Because in the art of saying no, you'll find the power to say yes to the life you were meant to live. We all have dreams, goals, and aspirations that we carry with us. but how often do we truly take the time to connect with them? It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day grind, responding to emails, attending meetings, dealing with unexpected distractions that we forget to ask ourselves, what do I truly want? For years, I was like most people, checking off tasks, getting through my to-do lists, putting out fires, and moving from one responsibility to the next. But somewhere along the way, I realized I had lost touch with my own desires, my own vision for my life. I was running on autopilot, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's had that experience. We live in a world that constantly demands our attention, but how often does it ask us what we actually want? How often does it encourage us to slow down and truly listen to the whispers of our hearts? And the harder truth, how often do we ignore those whispers, thinking they're insignificant or that we'll get to them later? I've come to understand something that has completely shifted the way I approach my life. If you're not intentional about where you want to go, you'll end up somewhere you didn't plan to be. The top 1% of achievers aren't just successful by happenstance. They've crafted their lives with intention. They know exactly where they want to go, what they want to achieve, and what they stand for. And even on the toughest days, when the obstacles seem insurmountable, they keep their eyes on that vision. They don't let the noise distract them. You've heard the saying, failing to plan is planning to fail. It's often repeated because it's true. But what if the real challenge is not just making a plan, it's making a plan that actually aligns with who you are and where you want to go? What if the biggest mistake isn't having no plan at all, but having a plan that doesn't reflect your true purpose and desires? The people at the top know exactly who they are and what they want. They're not floundering around, trying to figure it out as they go. They've connected with their deepest desires, their truest purpose, and they've made that the guiding force behind every decision they make. I'll be honest with you, there have been times in my life when I didn't know what I truly wanted. I didn't know what my long-term goals were. I was busy doing the things I thought I was supposed to do. But the minute I made the decision to align myself with my true desires, everything shifted. Suddenly, I was more motivated, more focused, more energized. Why? Because I was no longer moving aimlessly through life. I had a destination. I think so many of us are stuck in the cycle of doing without ever truly understanding why we're doing it. And that's where burnout ends. That's where frustration creeps in. We're giving our time, our energy, our focus to things that aren't truly aligned with what we want. And in doing so, we slowly lose sight of our own direction. But when you're clear on your vision, when you've taken the time to truly understand what matters to you, it changes everything. You become laser focused. You start saying no to the distractions that pull you off course. You stop wasting time on things that don't serve your greater purpose. The top 1% make their goals clear. They don't just have vague hopes and dreams. They break them down into tangible, actionable steps. They know exactly what they're working toward, and they don't get sidetracked by things that don't align with their vision. Imagine how different your life would be if you truly understood what you wanted and built your days around those desires. Imagine how much clearer your choices would be if you had a clear vision of where you're headed and who you want to be. I want to challenge you to ask yourself some hard questions today. What do I truly want? What does my dream life look like? It's not enough to simply want more. You have to get specific. The clearer you are about your goals, the easier it becomes to make decisions that move you closer to them. The truth is, you can't expect the world to hand you your dreams on a silver platter. You have to take the time to define them. You have to own them. You have to take action, not because you're following someone else's blueprint, but because you're following your own. When you get crystal clear on your vision, you can create a life that's in alignment with your deepest values and desires. You stop wandering, you stop guessing, you stop wasting time, you start living with purpose, with intent, and with a powerful sense of direction. So ask yourself today, where do I want to go? And don't just answer with something vague or safe. Dig deep. Find the truth. And when you do, hold on to it fiercely. Because that clarity is what will guide you through every challenge, it's what every uncertainty. It's what will keep you moving forward, no matter what. Now, as I stand before you today, I want you to hear this loud and clear. Your time is your most precious resource. Every minute you spend in doubt, in distraction, in hesitation, you're stealing from the life you were meant to live. You were not born to live in the shadows of later or to be defined by the choices of others. You were born to create, to push boundaries, and to live boldly with purpose. So I ask you, what are you going to do with the time you have left? Will you keep waiting for the perfect moment? Or will you make the decision today to stop wasting your life, to show up with intention, and to start taking massive action toward what you truly want? The top 1% didn't get there by accident. They made choices. They showed up. They embraced discomfort. They said no to the noise and yes to their vision. and they built a life they could be proud of. This is your invitation, your wake-up call. The only moment that matters is right now. So let's stop wasting time. Let's step into our power. Let's make today the day we choose to live intentionally, to build lives that align with our true desires, and to leave behind the busyness that keeps us from greatness. The life you dream of isn't in the future, it's in the choices you make today. I believe in you. Now, go out and believe in yourself.